We see events in which the forces of different factions united to destroy the demonic cult. By demonic cult, we mean a group that worships a false god and commits evil. Suddenly, we are shown a guy in a red uniform and with a sword who shouts towards the crowd. He doesn't understand why, of all the demons, they decided to pursue him because there are many of them. In response to this guy, one girl starts smiling and is about to say the reason for this. They make it clear to the guy that this is all because many of them harbor a grudge against him. This guy with the sword is our main character named Cheon-jin, and he is a demon. His title is special. It is given only to outstanding personalities of the demonic cult. It becomes known that unofficially there is another person called a demon. Right now we see Cheon-jin spending time with a girl and asking if she likes the new sect. It turns out that there are several girls in this room, and the red-haired one considers herself a rag from the left faction. Another modest girl already believes that the new sect is truly unsurpassed, and that's just great. After a moment, it becomes clear that our main character managed to spend time with each girl from different factions. They called him a demon who actually knew how to have fun, and was a true master of his craft. We again see Cho-jin, who looks at this crowd and believes that there is clearly some kind of misunderstanding. Our main character tries to justify himself to this angry crowd, but apparently this has no effect on them. These people don't like that the main character communicated with girls from their sex, but he says that they themselves approached him. He seriously states that he never invited them to visit. He just never refused and never took the first step. After some time, the pink-haired girl got tired of listening to this guy's excuses, so she ordered to finish him off. Her guard dogs understood the order, so without wasting any time, they immediately rushed towards Cheon-jin. Our main character, in turn, was not at a loss. He decided to use his abilities and managed to summon an ice mountain in front of him. This trick on his part greatly surprised these people. They understand that he is the one who can use the ice demon techniques. However, the smart girl tells everyone that Cheon-jin is able to use the techniques of any woman with whom he spent his time. These techniques may not be the strongest, but they should be prepared for a variety of techniques related to yin energy. Meanwhile, in the midst of the battle, one of the elders walked around our main character and, already thinking that he would defeat him, struck him in the back with a sword. It would seem that after this blow, Cheon-jin should fall and this guy should begin to rejoice at his victory. But apparently everything did not go according to his plan. It turned out that the savvy Cheon-jin used his body-switching technique in time, and we watch as he is behind this guy. A moment later, our main character struck this loser, and apparently, the blow was successful because the bad guy begins to fall off his feet. After such an incident, the crowd understands that they should not attack this demon one at a time because they are doomed to defeat, so they decided to attack together. Cheon-jin immediately drew attention to their new plan, after which he took a fighting stance and was about to use the next technique. The guy used the 11th wave technique, namely a burning meteorite, and a huge explosion is visible all around, which will not pass without consequences. The crowd realizes that he was using the bloody hand demon technique, a martial art that uses yang energy instead of yin. At this moment, one of the people who wants to finish off Cheon-jin begins to believe that he was still having fun with men, but the main character denies this. Then we see how one person from the crowd is already tired of the fact that they can't finish off the main character for so long, so he asks everyone to get out of his way to deal with the guy. This man decided to take advantage of the 10th form at the height of the plum blossoms, and you can see how he quickly rushes towards Cheon-jin. Our main character perfectly understands the seriousness of what is happening, and believes that he needs to concentrate to repel this attack. A moment later, we can watch as our main character took out his longsword and chopped off a pink cluster of leaves. People understand that Cheon-jin did not spare even a masterful blow with a sword from the plum blossom of the right faction, and this surprises them very much. Two guys cross their swords and their battle is in full swing. The guy in white is dissatisfied with the fact that he did not finish off the main character with his attack. It's clear how this man has already completely lost his temper, because he sees how much Cheon-jin is trying to humiliate them all in this very place. Meanwhile, Cheon-jin did not say anything in response to this bad guy. He is now in his thoughts and understands that he urgently needs to get to the leader. A moment after this, we see how the pink-haired girl took advantage of the fact that our main character was distracted and stabbed him in the back with a knife. Of course, the guy could not have expected such a turn of events. He felt pain from behind, and the expression on his face shows that he is now in bewilderment. The smug girl tells Cheon-jin that, as expected, he is truly inimitable, but now the end has come for him. This girl, continuing to rejoice that she was able to defeat the main character, tells him that in his next life he should not play with the feelings of other people. Cheon-jin, dissatisfied, turns behind his back and looking into the eyes of this abnormal woman with a dagger, says that it's hard to believe that they call her a seductress. After his words, the guy seems to begin to draw air into his lungs and you can see how well he can do it. Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl noticed this and immediately tensed up. She just couldn't understand how this guy could even pull off such a thing. Our main character took advantage of the 15th form of the earthly touch of the heavenly fog, and we can see how complete chaos begins to happen all around. A man with a sword and a beautiful mustache covers his ears, and being dissatisfied realizes that Cheon-jeong has too much inner strength. We can again observe the girl. She realized that the main character used his inner strength during the injury, which is why she is going to do something. It turns out that she doesn't have much else to do, because of her actions, Cheon-jeong is no longer in ideal condition, and red liquid is coming out of his mouth. A moment after seeing this, a crowd of guys with swords realize that this is their chance, so without wasting time, they all rushed at the wounded guy at once. Cheon-jeong, in turn, despite his position, is not going to give up. He moved his sword forward and understands that his opponents are real cowards. After that, our main character touched the earth's surface with his foot quite strongly, after which cracks appeared along it, and the guy makes it clear that he will deal with all of them. At the same moment, our main character realized that something strange had happened. Complete bewilderment was visible on his face, so we still have to figure out what happened. Suddenly, he realizes that the soil could have weakened due to the shockwave from the earthly touch of the heavenly fog, and this is simply amazing. He could not have expected this. One person from this crowd noticed how Cheon-jeong seemed to be starting to fly away somewhere. He, of course, didn't like this, so he, imagining himself like a bolt, was going to catch up with him. But apparently we didn't even have to catch up because that guy only had to throw his weapon to stop our main character. The wounded Cheon-jin, falling from a cliff, realizes that he was completely careless and he needs to meet with the leader as soon as possible to sort out the problems. Continuing to fall, our main character asks for forgiveness from a certain Hyung. Perhaps this is even his punishment for dating too many women. Cheon-jeong realizes that his death is inevitable. He continues to fall and believes that if there is still a next life, then he will definitely try to restrain himself. Eventually, the demonic cult fell to the alliance of the right and left factions, and from that day on, it sank into oblivion in the chronicles of history. And so, 10 whole years have already passed. We see some kind of brush, and apparently someone is trying to paint, but he can't do it. Suddenly, we see one girl who apparently managed to get rid of extra rags and turns to a certain Appa telling him that more than an hour has already passed. She hopes that this guy will finally finish drawing for today, but he simply cannot catch inspiration and does not know what to do next. This guy tells her to stop talking idle to him and take a different pose so that he can paint a very beautiful picture. We see that this person is Cheon-jeong, and right now he is confident that he can draw the best drawing in his life. However, the girl now has completely different plans. She put her hand on the table to this guy and says that the guy shouldn't do this now. After that, she begins to look our main character straight in the eyes and believes that they should do something much more interesting than drawing. The girl remembers Cheon-jeong's word that he can't catch inspiration, and our main character tells her that this is indeed the case. Further, we can observe strong embarrassment on this guy's face. He believes that now it would be completely wrong if he abandoned his drawing and went to do something else. The main character understands that he may not meet the deadline with his painting, but despite this, he still drove his limousine into the garage. Meanwhile, the girl tells the guy that she really likes his limousine, and looking at it gives her incredible pleasure. Then it begins to seem to this girl that the fuel tank will very soon begin to leak, and apparently, this will be impossible to avoid. A moment later, we realize that the fuel tank was leaking, and no matter how hard they tried, it could not be avoided. The main character, looking at this beautiful picture in front of him, thinks that this is all obvious, but there is still something he would like to say. Cheon-jeong says that looking at the expression on this girl's face, he gets the feeling that he is looking at an angry pig, and this is very strange. All these events continue to occur 10 years after the destruction of the demonic cult, and our main character apparently found some kind of inspiration for himself. Apparently this is so, because this guy grabbed his brush and immediately went to the piece of paper to begin his beautiful drawing. This demon who spent time with women from the right and left factions of the demonic cult and the imperial family put aside revenge for a while and is busy painting. By continuing to paint his picture, Cheon-jeong is going to outdo Da Vinci himself and his popular picture, which everyone considered him to be the best. Our main character is in the process of becoming an artist, and right now he is looking at one of his works with great satisfaction. Suddenly, the candle that was in Cheon-jeong's room just went out for some unknown reason. Apparently something was wrong here. Some girl entered the guy's room and, seeing his paintings, said that this was quite a suitable job for someone who is known as a demon. The guy is very scared and turns around and decides to ask who is standing here. Meanwhile, he realizes that he didn't even feel the presence of this girl. This strange girl is aware of our main character's plans for the future, so she immediately decides to directly ask him when he plans to take revenge on the new faction. Our main character heard the words from this girl, and then he suddenly began to realize something, and suddenly this made him feel a little uneasy. Cheon-jeon, looking at this girl with horror, realizes that she knows who he is even though many years have passed, and this is very strange. Then we see how Cheon-jeon continues to sit with his paper, and the girl behind him continues to stand, waiting for any action from the guy. The sad guy sits in place and doesn't understand what will happen next, so he's going to have a quick fight with this strange girl. After his words, our main character begins to reach for his brush, confident that he will finish this very battle with just one hit. Cheon-jeon is completely dissatisfied with the fact that this girl has been silently standing in place for some time and not answering his simple question, so he immediately threw his brush at her. However, immediately after the throw, Cheon-jeon unexpectedly discovered that something strange had happened, and apparently everything was not going quite according to his plan. It turned out that the suspicious girl just took it and disappeared somewhere. This great guy doesn't understand what can be expected from her next, because she could be absolutely anywhere. Suddenly, the girl finds herself behind our main hero. However, she did not strike and only stands behind, pointing her sword at him. She makes it clear to the guy that he is really weakened. She continues to stand behind him so that he will finally be convinced that he is weak and she is strong here, so he should obey her. At the same moment, Cheon-jeon began to realize something. He looked at her excitedly and realized that this was his friend named Hawk Ren, and this surprised him. Hawk Ren is a member of the right faction. After the guy recognized her, she began to take off her mask from her face and tells him that a lot of time has passed. The main character says that she could have simply said that she came. Cheon-jeon will not understand why she behaved this way, and Hawk Ryong says that it was a test. Then the girl makes it clear to the main character that some evil is looking for him, but he does not understand what they are talking about, because it seemed to him that they had left him behind for a long time. She makes it clear that the remaining evil ones are joining forces to come to Cheon-jeon and take revenge on him for everything. Hawk Ren is right now turning to the guy. Yui wants to know what she should tell evil from him, but the main character asks him to tell them to go to their mothers. After his words, the guy begins to rise up and realizes that their path of revenge will not bring the dead back to life, so they are trying in vain. We are reminded that the demon Cheon-jin died when he fell from a cliff on the day of the destruction of the demonic cult. This great man is already very tired. He understands that he has no interest in seeking revenge because he has completely different goals in this life, and he doesn't even hide it. With a lot of confidence and determination on his face, Cheon-jeon tells the girl that he really wants to make adult content and spend time with women. Hawk Ren listened carefully to this strange guy. She lets him know that she began to understand everything, and she sighs as if she didn't like it. Suddenly, we are shown a seller and a buyer who offers 3 times the price for some item, and the seller still does not want to sell this thing. The dissatisfied seller says that he has already gone to more than 20 counters to buy a hageo and cannot get it anywhere, and is in dire need of it. In response, the seller, with a very awkward look, tells this old man that they have run out of these things and are out of stock, so he can leave. The seller says that these ahagio are sold out all over the country due to their enormous popularity, so there is still time to get hold of it. Then they show us another man who loudly shouts at some idiots and asks them to do the work as quickly as possible because they don't have time. The boss tells his employees to produce goods as quickly as possible because now there is high demand, and his employees tell him that he is right. Suddenly, we are shown a girl named Jinju. She is the owner of the store and realizes that Ahagio's new work has really become a hit, and this makes me happy. The main character is asked how such an idea came to his mind. He says that he kept looking for inspiration, but it didn't work, after which he just had fun with the girl, and she made a funny face. Seeing her strange face, our main character suddenly realized that this was his inspiration, and he immediately decided to take advantage of it. He says that this face was without shame and morality, and the expression on this woman's face was like that of a girl with a clouded mind. And then Cheon-jeon stopped telling his story and said that he just drew a face on Jinja, making it clear to the guy that she understood everything. However, it turned out that our main character was holding cannonballs in his hands all this time, and, being dissatisfied, asked him to stop doing this. She says that in this way she will not be able to concentrate on her very important work, but judging by the reaction of our main character, he is not going to stop. In this case, the guy found a brilliant solution to all the problems. He simply suggested that this girl stop working so that she would not have to concentrate once again. Jinju is already beginning to understand why Cheon-jeon came here, namely in order to receive his fee, which is why she tells him that he can do this. Meanwhile, she begins to find it strange that they are sitting in broad daylight and during their working hours and doing all sorts of nonsense instead of important work. In response, our Cheon-jin begins to get rid of the extra rags and tells her that they are doing this precisely because it is the middle of the day, and the girl does not understand what he means. Then our main character turns to this girl and complains to him that because of all the big money she earned, she completely forgot about the terms of their contract. They had an agreement that he would allow her to be his only publisher and sell his works. The guy is now wondering if she remembers all this. He wants her to answer this question as soon as possible, after which the girl says that in order to pay for the right to publish her work, she must do something. Jinju says that he will play various fun games with the author of this work every time he gets bored and wants it. Nevertheless, Jinja decided to give her consent to this game. She still cannot believe that they are going to start playing right in the middle of the day at work. A moment later, the main character decided to please her by offering to give her a test drive on his Cybertruck, and apparently this made her very happy. During this entertainment, it begins to seem to Jinja that she is starting to go crazy because this is all very unusual now. Suddenly there was a knock on the door from a girl named Huiyan. The main character and Jinju paid attention to this and realized that now she had come at the wrong time. Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl continues to stand outside the door, waiting for permission to enter this room, but she has not yet heard anything other than silence from the other side. It turns out that this girl's name is Sovol and she is a co-owner. Right now, she was wondering if there was anyone inside this quiet room because everyone was silent. After some time, Sal was completely tired of standing outside the door and feeling unnecessary, so she decided to open the door herself and go inside. Having entered inside, the girl saw a certain picture in front of her, and suddenly, for some reason, she just started smiling while looking at someone. It turned out that now she is looking at our main character, who, sitting at his desk, greets the girl, saying that they have not seen each other for a long time. The guy wonders if everything is fine with her. So Wool says that everything is fine, and thanks to the success of his new job, everything is going great for them. So Cheon-jin is a great fellow. Meanwhile, the girl looks around in search of Jinju and asks Cheon-jiyong about her. He says that he's not sure, and supposedly he's also waiting for her, but hasn't seen her yet. Nevertheless, the curious guy decided to ask her a question. He was wondering why Sovol was looking for Jinja and whether something urgent had happened. The pink-haired one said that she had to give her the documents. Meanwhile, we see Jinja herself, who is right now hiding in this room so as not to be found, and is barely trying to restrain herself from accidentally laughing. The main character wants this pink-haired girl to leave the office as soon as possible, and tells her that if there is nothing important in the documents, then she can leave them with him, and he will hand them over. After which our main character tells the girl that the owner needs a little more time to come here, so it would be better for her to leave the documents here. Of course, Sovol was delighted with this offer from our main character. She already understands that he knows the contents of these documents, so she gave them to him. For several minutes now, the dialogue between Sowol and Cheon-jin continues, and Na Jinju continues to hide under the table, hoping that that girl will leave as soon as possible. The main character makes it clear to this pink-haired girl that it will be a piece of cake for him to hand over these documents, so she definitely shouldn't worry about it. We can pay attention to how suddenly the pink-haired girl's gaze rushed down, and right now she is looking at something in very surprise, as if she understood what was going on. Now we can watch Cheon-jiyong's face, so we can say that the great-grandfather is very tense and is afraid that the girl has figured out his little secret. It turned out that before that there was a knock on the table. The guy is trying to excuse himself by saying that he accidentally kicked the table when he tried to get up. The girl wonders if he's okay. Jinja, in turn, says to the owl that everything is fine with him. She, in response, says that she is very glad that everything is fine with him. After this, the girl says that it's time for her to go and thanks the main character for his good help. The guy was glad that she was finally leaving and wished her good luck. A moment later, Sova left this office and closed the door behind her. Our main character silently watched her to make sure that she had definitely left here. Making sure that the girl has definitely left, Cheon-jiyong turns to Jinja and makes it clear to her that she can crawl out from under the table, and the girl crawls out with a dissatisfied look. It turned out that this woman could not hold her emotions inside herself for too long, and then began to shout at the guy, telling him that he was really crazy. It seems to her that they could have been caught playing while working, but the guy smiles and asks not to worry because they weren't caught. He certainly wouldn't jeopardize her possible earnings. Dissatisfied with Jinja, she tells our main character that if they were caught, then her opportunity to earn money in this place would end, and that would be bad. Jinju tells Cheon-jiyong that he really should keep his word, and after that the girl herself is going to start sharpening her sword right now. Having started the next actions, this girl begins to consider our main hero to be an overly self-confident person, and of course she likes this about him. Meanwhile, Cheon-jeong turned his attention to some book he was holding in his hands, and apparently, right now, he was going to read it. He became interested in what was written in this book, but he did not open it and simply decided to ask the Jinja about it so that she would answer his question. Meanwhile, the girl did not pay attention to the words of our main character and continued to do her favorite thing. At this moment, the guy remembers that Sovol said that he should be aware of this. Then the guy talks about his intentions to read this document, and apparently the girl didn't like it because she became very tense after his words. Cheon-jin reads about how the author of a work enters into a contract with a publishing house for the sole use of his works at a fixed rate for the next 10 years, and thus the duration of publications will be halved after the guy reads this. The girl tenses up and says that this is one of her plans. You can tell by the expression on the girl's face that right now she is afraid of something. She is trying to justify herself to him and say that she would never do something like that. After that, Cheon-jeon starts to get up from his chair, and if she looks at it more broadly, they have other plans for the future, so he asks her not to misunderstand him. Then we see how our main character stood up in front of this girl. After that, she got even more scared, and looking into his eyes says that she would prefer that he sit down. However, this guy is now too angry to sit back in his seat. After hearing her request, he simply took this document and threw it far enough out of anger. This book flew several meters and landed at the other end of the room, after which Cheon-jeong begins to insult this bad girl for her action. Our main character, reconsidered Jojo, stood in front of this girl and realized that she was going to get all the profits for 10 years and cut the releases of his work in half. It begins to seem to him that she has actually already gone crazy because she dared to stab him in the back while he was earning money for her, thereby treating her kindly. The main character took out a sharp sword and then told her that right now he would raise this bad man so that the Ginja would know how to behave correctly. Meanwhile, the owl is outside this office and enjoys the sounds of the main character being re-educated into Jinja. The pink-haired one had no idea that the owner was there. She was already thinking about asking them to join their game after finding out what exactly they were playing there right now. Suddenly, while the pink-haired girl was outside, our main character turned to her, saying that he could hear her even from here from a decent distance of a couple of meters. This Sigma tells her that he can hear the sounds of a woman who wants to join them from a great distance, and this greatly surprised the owl. This girl paid attention to Jung-jeong, but she also saw Jinja, who is in an extraordinary state right now. We see how the result of upbringing is reflected on Jinja, and the main character says to Sovol that he just needs another woman, while the owner of their store is not herself. After his words, our main character continued to stand in front of the pink-haired girl, wanting to find out from her what she thinks about it, and whether she wants to sign up for it or not. Next, Cheon-jeon decides to motivate Sewol by telling her that if she does her job well, he will definitely appoint her as the owner of the store. And of course, for this girl, these words were enough, after which she immediately began to get rid of the extra rags, making it clear that she agreed to the guy's proposals. Then we see a night street, and the voice of the main character is heard asking him to bring more golden nectar. People around him see that he must be very rich. We see Cheon-jeon sitting surrounded by girls. He says that he is the greatest of the writers in these lands, and thanks to his gorgeous work, he now has a lot of money. One of the girls was very interested in the words of this guy. She still can't believe that he really is the writer of that famous work. In response to her surprise, the main character invites her to prove that he is the very author of the famous work, and apparently the girl does not mind devoting her time to this. After all this, Cheon-jeon begins to silently wander through the corridors of this building, thinking about all sorts of events that happened to them earlier. Continuing to walk along the same corridor, the guy begins to laugh and he thinks that all those girls were very cool, and it was quite fun to spend time with them. Our main character believes that he should definitely do this party again, because it's a lot of fun and he won't regret repeating this event. While Cheon-jeong was wandering alone in the night courtyard, he suddenly noticed someone's voice. He, of course, looked at the source of the voice, wanting to know who it was there. It turned out that in front of him there was a sad girl standing in front of the final boss of the KFS who was apologizing to him for something. Our main character decided to clarify what was happening here.